My name is Cathy Yoon. I am Chief Legal Officer at MPCH Labs, and we're focused on developing different use cases using a type of cryptographic technology called multi-party computation. And I got into the space because in the end, I was bored. I was working in the traditional space. I was working at a very, very large bank at that point. And in 2016, I think a lot of the large financial institutions were starting to explore, play around with something called DLT, distributed ledger technology, which is the overarching technology where blockchain comes from. And I was doing investments, I was doing your normal corporate law stuff. And as I was learning about all these different opportunities and consortium that the bank was looking to make investments in, I said, well, I should learn about the underlying technology. And I got so frustrated because I'm like, this is amazing. We're going to be doing groundbreaking things. Why aren't we moving faster? And it just became one of those things where I became impatient. I wanted to do more stuff. So I left my very, very comfortable, decently paying, boring job. And I left straight into startup land. Worked initially as a blockchain advisor. There's a meme that I love to describe my first job in the startup world. We were a startup helping startups start up. And then it was early on, it was 2018. There were more and more regulation getting into the space. And so I took it upon myself to really move away from just being like a practitioner of law to being an advisor, to doing more on the product development side, doing a lot of stuff on the regulatory side. So it kind of just snowballed from me seeing a bigger future and not being at a place where I thought it was going to happen. Everyone is welcome. We need so much talent in this space. We have a lot of talent in this space, and I don't think we would have gotten to where we are today without it. But I don't want people to think that because this is an emerging technology, it's technology-based, that you have to be a technical person to get involved. Like, take for me, for instance, I'm a lawyer, but I was a corporate lawyer. But there's no such thing as blockchain law. It really is an amalgamation of all these different practice areas. So if you are an antitrust lawyer, there are antitrust considerations. There are all these different ways where you can take what you're doing right now and make a mark. But then you can be like me, where I was this corporate lawyer, and now I do so many other different things. And so I think you just have to give yourself the chance to play around with it, explore it, but there really is a space and a role for everyone. It will be very different from what we are doing today. I mean, we're building, and it's kind of like the early internet days. You might have had internal email, so you could only send email to each other, but maybe you couldn't send it to your friend, right? We're kind of at that stage where people are exploring and trying out different ways to use technology. The thing about blockchain is that it's ledger-based, right? You have to think about where it makes sense for a ledger-based technology. And so it's a lot in terms of process management. Maybe you're using blockchain to allow you to get through your approval process faster, right? Because how do we get approvals right now? You send out emails to all the different stakeholders and you're waiting for those emails to come in. It might get stuck in spam, you might not get it, someone's on vacation, and then all of a sudden what should have happened with a quick response like yes, and then send, it takes weeks. But maybe you can use cryptography and blockchain-based technology to streamline that approval process, and all of a sudden, instead of weeks, you have everything done and it's immutable. Everyone can trust that it's been done correctly. So I think in the future, it will be not just about cryptocurrency. It's not going to be just about NFTs or that type of thing. It will be really using technology to make our lives better from a process perspective. People ask me all the time, what are some websites? What are podcasts that I can listen to? What are some courses? None of them will be good because right now the space moves so quickly that you could be looking at materials that are outdated. So you could be thinking of Ethereum before it moved from proof of work to proof of stake, and you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage by not having the most current information. So for me, start on the crypto side. Open up an exchange account like a Coinbase or wherever you can open an account based on the state that you're in. Figure out how much money you think you can lose. So say it's like $25. The best thing about crypto is that you can buy $25 worth of things and play around with it. Try sending it to another wallet of yours. Try sending it to a friend. Encourage other people to do it. The more you play around with it and you actually do it, it's going to not force you, but you're going to want to learn, like, well, what does a wallet address mean? How can I safeguard it? Do I leave it at the exchange? Do I send it to an external wallet? And I think as you start doing it, you're just going to understand it a little bit more. I think any conversation is probably a starter. I speak with people and they are scared to death that the board or shareholder or someone that they can't ignore is going to come to them and say, what are you doing in Web3? Have you thought about it? And it's that fear of being asked a question that makes people freeze. And what my advice is, don't be scared of the question. Start with what you know. Does it make sense for your company, right? Go find people that you can speak with in terms of helping you figure out if a blockchain-based something makes sense for you, because it won't make sense for everyone else. Instead of being scared about having the conversation, it's really focus on what are the areas where you think your business might need a change. Is it on the internal process management side? Is it from a marketing perspective? Is it from a branding perspective? And I think once you figure out where you could use that type of technology, trust your gut. You got to a place because you know what you know. Everything is still based on the very traditional sense, but maybe there's a tweak. Maybe the technology is being used to make it more efficient or to cut out some processes. So my advice is take a deep breath. Do not be scared of it, and just to have the conversation like you would trying to explore anything else in your business. That's a really good question in terms of how established companies can pick a startup. We see there's a lot of news. So Bank of New York Mellon, let's just take them. They just came out with news last week, saying that they are now going to custody crypto for their clients. This is a large traditional custodian, like a custodial bank. And when I left, they did not want to touch crypto. So they got to the point where their customers said, we want you to do this. You're a trusted custodian. Of course you have to do this. But I think this is what happened, is they went out there and they looked at the different service providers. No one else was doing the traditional space. So they had to go to a startup. It helps if you have very little competition and you're you're early to the game. But you also have to understand as a startup what the checkbox is from a large institutional perspective, like a bank. You have to get through risk, you have to get through compliance. They're going to want to make sure that you have all the right security certifications. So you coming out with a plan saying, we're going to get SOC 2 certified, we're going to do all of these things. This is the roadmap, because in the end, you don't want someone's procurement team to say, you know what, they don't meet our checklist. We can't onboard them. So help them, let them onboard you. And I think it goes down to don't be scared of this. Don't think that if you are not the most technical person, that you're not going to get it. What I tell people is, most of us use smartphones. Do we stop and think of how it actually works? We just know that there's a solution out there and it's going to make our lives easier. People will use it. So for people who are building in this space, don't put the technology first. Build something that people want to use, or think about how you want to use certain things. And if that technology makes sense for it, then build it that way.